My wife wanted an open marriage to find herself. I agreed. 6 months later, she brought her lover home. And everything began to fall apart. Lana stood there, defiant, one hand still resting on Blake's arm like she owned the room. Like she owned me. My voice was calm, but every word cut like a blade. This house was never yours. You brought him into my home, drank my whiskey, and called it freedom. Her smug smile faltered, replaced by the dawning realization that the game she thought she controlled was already slipping through her fingers. I, a 36-year-old male, have been driving trucks cross-country for 12 years. If you don't mind being alone, this is a good deal. Until recently, I believed my marriage to Lana, a 35-year-old woman, was fair enough. We've been together for 10 years and married for 7. I purchased my house before we married. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, built in the 1990s, but I paid $210,000 for it in 2015, and it's now worth nearly $450,000. Lana seemed to enjoy my stability when we first started dating. I'd be gone for days driving routes, then return home for a few. We had a system. She worked at an insurance company and managed cooking. I took care of the repairs and yard work. A simple arrangement that worked. Given my schedule, a practical division of labor seemed appropriate. Our existence was not Instagram-worthy by today's standards, but it was steady. We'd go camping in the mountains, hang out with a small group of pals, and watch movies on weekends, like normal people. I assumed we were on the same page about what marriage entailed. Partnership, loyalty, and creating something together. Then things changed when her sister Sabrina, 38 and female, returned to town following her second divorce. Divorced twice. Constantly looking for a new guy or life experience. The type of woman who shares motivational phrases on social media while her life is a complete disaster. Suddenly, she was in our house, telling Lana stories about exotic holidays, weekend flings, and how life is too short to be tied down. I was not blind. I witnessed the changes in real time. Lana went from being satisfied with our lives to suddenly acting as if she was missing out on some wonderful adventure. She began following all of these lifestyle influencers, ladies in their 30s and 40s with suspiciously large amounts of free time and money who were always flying to Bali or wherever. I began to see changes in Lana after that. Small talk at first, complaints about our boring routine, remarks about how I wouldn't understand certain things because I'm only a trucker. It was as if the work that paid for everything had become something to be ashamed of. She would roll her eyes if I mentioned saving for retirement or home upgrades. She started making strange comments about other couples we knew, like, "Did you know Victor and Sarah are in therapy? Apparently they're working through some sexual compatibility issues," and dropping these little bombs throughout dinner like they were entirely regular conversation subjects. She resigned her job 3 months ago without telling me. "I need to find myself, Ethan," she said one night as I was fatigued from a 14-hour trip. "This insurance job is killing my soul." I meant for more. I was too tired to argue. Just asked, "What's the plan? Another job or school? Are these reasonable questions?" "I need some time to explore my options," she remarked, as if she were a fresh college grad rather than a 35-year-old woman with bills. "I've been thinking about something that allows me to express myself." Express yourself on somebody else's dime, I thought, but didn't add. We had enough savings to float her for a while, and I figured maybe some time off would help her reset, but apparently that meant scrolling Instagram and meeting Sabrina for endless brunch while I was on the road. Our agreement about splitting responsibilities had gone, and I'd come home to a dirty house, no food, an attitude when I mentioned it, dishes piled in the sink, laundry untouched. Meanwhile, she'd somehow found time to buy new clothes and get her nails done twice a week. I didn't make a big deal about it. I just started doing everything myself. Cooking, cleaning and doing laundry while working 60+ hours a week on the road. But I started checking out mentally, and I spent more time with my buddies at the garage where we work on project cars. Nothing clears the mind like working on an old engine. You don't have to guess what's wrong, you diagnose it, fix it, and it works again. I'd ask about her job search, and she'd accuse me of not supporting her journey. I'd point out that she wasn't contributing, and she'd accuse me of being controlling and financially abusive. I'd bring up our agreement, and she'd say that agreements change and I needed to adapt. So there I was getting home from a 3-day haul thinking it was just another Tuesday. Lana asked me to sit down in the living room. She had that look where someone's about to drop a bomb. "Ethan," she started swirling her glass. "I've been doing a lot of thinking about us." Uh-huh. My stomach did a little flip, but I kept my face neutral. "I think it's time we explored," she finally said with a straight face. "Explore?" I asked, keeping my voice even. "Explore what?" "National Park." My brain short-circuited. This was Lana. The woman who once got jealous when I mentioned a female truck stop cashier was friendly, and now she's casually pitching screwing other people like she's suggesting we try a new restaurant. Wait, are you serious? Was all I could manage. Yes, completely, she said with this strange brightness in her voice. I think it could be really liberating for us. Bring a new spark. We both get to experience new things, new people, no secrets. It's all above board. This marriage is so restrictive. I want to explore others. My initial feeling was rage, followed by a strange, icy calm. So, you want to sleep with other guys? Cheat without saying you want to cheat, I responded dismissively. It's not just that, she muttered. It's about freedom and growth for both of us. I want to see other men. You know, more interesting men. Interesting, I said. Like that CrossFit instructor you and Sabrina keep talking about. Her face flushed. Bingo. She'd been mentioning this Blake guy for weeks, how inspiring his journey was, how he'd quit his corporate job to become a fitness instructor, how he was really connecting with his authentic self. Authentic self, whatever the hell that is. We argued for about an hour over the usual points. She wanted experiences. I pointed out that vows mean something. She said I was stuck in patriarchal thinking, and I reminded her that she used to value loyalty. She kept using buzzwords like evolving relationship models, ethical non-monogamy, and expanding our capacity for connection, as if she had swallowed a self-help book while I was thinking about mortgage payments and STD risks. Okay, Lana, I said. Lana blinked. Okay, just okay. Yeah, I said, if that's what you want, let's do it. Lana looked like someone who'd prepared for a war and suddenly found the enemy surrendering, suspicious but relieved. Let her think she'd won. That would make the next moves easier. Lana's shocked expression quickly morphed into a smug smile, as if she'd won something. Wow, I didn't think you'd be so open-minded. She jumped right in. Well, we should be honest about who we're seeing, not lying or sneaking around, and we should still prioritize each other, like date nights and stuff. Makes sense, I said. And maybe we start with just casual things. Nothing serious or emotional with other people. I just kept nodding, watching her lay out this framework she'd obviously been thinking about for weeks. Probably had the CrossFit guy lined up already. He'd been liking all of her Instagram posts. I asked, when were you thinking of starting? She looked away. Well, there's a gym social thing tomorrow night. Of course there was. Go for it, I said. I've got a 3-day haul starting tomorrow anyway. She was confused and seemed almost disappointed at how easy this was. She'd clearly been rehearsing arguments in her head, expecting me to fight harder, maybe even wanting me to. The next 6 weeks were a wild ride for Lana, who jumped right into her new lifestyle with enthusiasm. I'd respond with simple okay or fun messages, never asking for details, and it drove her crazy that I wasn't jealous. It was like watching someone live out a fantasy they'd convinced themselves was sophisticated and evolved, when all they wanted was to have sex with someone new while keeping their security blanket at home. In the meantime, I was quietly putting my house in order. I called my bank and set up a new account at a different bank. I started moving small amounts over, nothing suspicious, just enough to build a safety net. I documented everything that happened in our marriage in a password-protected file. I scheduled a consultation with a divorce attorney during one of my longer hauls. I also stepped up my gym routine. I started doing heavy compound lifts, added cardio, lost 15 pounds of fat, and began. Victor, the attorney, had seen it all before. After I explained the situation, he said, "She wants to have her cake and eat it too. Your house is premarital, so that's protected. No kids make it cleaner. Keep documenting everything and don't confront her yet." Victor was this non-nonsense guy in his 50s, divorced twice himself, and said his own experiences made him better at his job. He could spot the patterns because he'd lived them. "Women like your wife," he said, leaning back in his chair, "think they've got it all figured out. They think they can have the freedom of being single with the security of being married, but it doesn't work that way." I took his advice, kept my head down, let Lana have her fun, and quietly prepared for the inevitable. The other shoe dropped about 2 months into this arrangement. Claire, a 35-year-old female fitness instructor who lives 2 doors down, had been too friendly with me for years, according to Lana, who had made jealous comments about it. Claire would sometimes chat with me when I was working on my truck in the driveway, talking about cars and neighborhood gossip. I'd always kept it strictly neighborly out of respect for my mother. One Saturday, I was changing the oil in my truck when Claire approached. "Hey neighbor," she grinned, leaning against my toolbox. "I haven't seen you around much lately." "I've been on the road a lot," I answered, wiping my hands on a rag. She looked wonderful in a tank top and shorts, and she smiled at me differently than before, more intently. "So I heard through the grapevine that you and Lana have some type of arrangement now." I looked up at her. "Where did you hear that?" "Small neighborhood. Lana's been seen around with that guy a few times, very clear." "Is that what's going on?" She shrugged, simply curious if it goes both ways. Lana drove into the driveway before I could respond. Her expression when she saw Claire chatting to me was priceless. Utter terror. She virtually raced over. "Ethan, what's going on?" Claire inquired innocently. "Just saying hi to Ethan, right?" Lana asked, her gaze flitting between us. "Ethan, can I talk to you inside for a minute?" She exploded the instant we walked through the door. "What the hell was that? You and Claire, we were just talking." I answered casually, as we have for years. "Don't act dumb." She was almost undressing you with her gaze. I raised an eyebrow. "That's a problem because it's Claire. The woman I've told you about for years has feelings for you." I leaned against the countertop. "I assumed we were in an open marriage now. Isn't this what you wanted to investigate?" Her face expressed roughly 5 different emotions. "That is different. We see Claire all the time. It would be unusual and messy." "So, your CrossFit instructor is fine. But my neighbor is not that intriguing." "It is not the same." She insisted. "Blake is. He's simply casual. No emotions. And Claire would not be casual because she has always had feelings for you. She would want more." Lana was virtually shrieking now. I remained totally calm. "So, your concern is not that I might hook up with someone else. Your concern is that it may be someone who genuinely likes me." "That was not what I stated." "That is precisely what you stated, Lana. You're fine with me having pointless sex with strangers. But God forbid I meet someone who genuinely cares about me." The fight lasted for hours, her position kept moving. First, Claire was off limits because she was a neighbor. Then I learned that she was Lana's enemy. Then, because open marriages should focus on fresh experiences rather than old crushes. I finally walked out and into the garage. I spent the remainder of the day working on my project car. Give me some time to consider. The following few weeks were tense. Lana resumed her exploration with CrossFit Blake and possibly another guy she met at a club. Meanwhile, I was under monitoring. She would come home early when I was off work. She started monitoring my phone when she believed I was sleeping. I even tried to get the password for my new email account. I offered her nothing to look for, which made her even more suspicious. The more empty the treasure trove, the more persuaded she was that I had concealed the genuine goods somewhere else. Classic projection. She was being sneaky. So I must be too. My whole emphasis changed towards self-improvement. I am going to the gym 5 days a week now. During long flights, I began reading books on finance and investing. I reconnected with old pals who I had lost touch with during my marriage. I had actual hobbies again. I was actually in the best shape of my life. Down to 185 from 215. Bench pressing more than I did in my 20s. Pushing large weights might be soothing when your life feels out of control. Can't save your marriage? At the very least, you can add another plate to the bar. The divorce attorney became my unofficial buddy. I'd contact him on long stretches of highway to inform him on the latest developments, and he'd tell me to keep the course, document everything, don't engage, and let her dig her own grave. Then Claire upped the ante. She texted me one afternoon about having a modest cookout this weekend. Only a few neighbors. You should come by. Lana, of course. I showed Lana the text. I thought she was about to burst. She snapped. We are not going. She's simply trying to get closer to you. Maybe I'd like to go, I said calmly. Good cuisine, neighbors, and regular social activities while admiring Claire in her swimsuit. I do not think so. It's interesting that you get to go on genuine dates with other men, yet I can't attend a neighborhood barbecue. That is different. You are already aware of this. The specifics vary. She couldn't explain it without confessing her hypocrisy. I just kept saying it was different, and I was being purposefully obtuse. I attended the cookout nonetheless. Lana declined to attend. That's exactly what Claire said. Just a few neighbors, some excellent food and beverages, and everything is perfectly innocent. Claire and I spoke, but nothing improper occurred. One of the other neighbors, an elderly man named Roy, who had lived in the neighborhood for years, pulled me aside at one point. Heard about your situation, he replied, passing me a drink. Went through something similar with my first wife back in '92. These open marriage things never work out the way they're pitched. Someone always has an agenda. Roy had a weathered face that had seen it all. Vietnam veteran, now retired, but yet built to handle himself. The type of guy who would give you the clothes off his back yet would not hesitate to tell you when you were doing foolishly. How did yours end? I asked. He chuckled. I saw her with my so-called best friend. It turned out that the open part was only for her, not me. The classic bait and switch. He sipped his drink, divorced her, and lost the house since I didn't know better at the time. The best thing that has ever occurred to me, however. I married Helen 6 years later and we've been together for 30 years now. Lana was already waiting for me when I arrived home. Have you seen her? Excuse me, Claire. Have you seen her? Do not lie to me. Wait, why is that a problem for you? Didn't we open our marriage? Claire is the problem. Yes, sure. She was boiling. I checked my clothes for perfume. What exactly are you doing? Seriously, the irony was thick enough to cut with a knife. She was looking for signs of cheating while having hickeys. She wasn't even trying to hide. Stop lying to me, Lord. Sabrina arrived at the house the next day, while Lana was out with one of her guys. I happened to stop by. Ethan, she said, entering without waiting for an invitation. What do we need to talk about? I inquired, not bothering to move off the couch. About what you are doing to Lana. She's a disaster. I actually laughed. What am I doing to Lana Nefer? That is an impressive sum. She intended to improve your relationship by adding spice. Not so you could pursue the first piece of ass that expressed interest. Interesting. Sabrina sat uninvited. Lana cares about you. She's only trying to find herself in other men's beds. Do not be crude. This was supposed to be a mutual learning experience. Mutual? I repeated. So, why is it a problem that I attended a neighborhood barbecue? Your objectives were not pure. You tried to injure Lana by eating a hamburger. Sabrina breathed deeply. You are being purposely thick. Lana knows Claire has had feelings for you for years. It is insulting. And Lana's behavior toward CrossFit Blake is not disrespectful. That is different. That is merely physical. There is no history there. Same BS. Different messenger. I stood up. Sabrina, with all due respect, which is none. This is between me and Lana. You urged her to discover herself and open our marriage. Do not be surprised if things don't go exactly as planned. That night, Lana took a new strategy. She came home wearing next to nothing and attempted to charm me. I was not interested. What's wrong? She inquired. I thought we could reconnect. I'm not in the mood, I replied. Is this about her? She shouted, the seductive performance disappearing in an instant. No, it's about me not being in the mood. You're punishing me. I agreed to everything you requested. 4 months into our open marriage, I was chronicling everything. Every dispute is around her double standards. Every time she returned home late from being with another guy, she spent every dollar from our joint account on her new lifestyle, including clothes, restaurants, and hotel rooms. I had a separate email account that she was unaware of, where I forwarded all of our text conversations, as well as screenshots of her social media, where she posts vague quotes about finding herself and exploring new connections while complaining about trust issues and emotional betrayal when it comes to me. The mental detachment was total. I gazed at her as if she were a stranger now. One night approximately 3 months in, I arrived home unexpectedly early from a route. I walked in to find Lana and Sabrina sitting at our kitchen table, a bottle of seltzer water between them. Planning what sounded like a financial execution. Sabrina said, I just need to figure out how to get your name on the deed. Or at least demonstrated that you have made a major contribution to its value. I moved away quietly, then made a show of entering loudly a minute later. They quickly moved topics, but the harm had been done. These weren't just two sisters looking into modern relationship structures. This was an organized effort to seize everything I owned. My lawyer was preparing a strong case. In our state, adultery is not a major factor in divorce, but financial irresponsibility and abandonment are, and Lana checked both boxes. She quit her job, contributed nothing to the household, and squandered our money. Meanwhile, I paid the mortgage on my premarital home, all of the bills, and kept up with the upkeep and cleaning. I kept my cool when it came to abandoning my marital duties. Did not confront her. I didn't upset the boat too much, just calmly moved forward, and prepared. Meanwhile, my bodily metamorphosis progressed steadily. My confidence had skyrocketed compared to where I had started. Clothes fit better and posture improved. Even my employer acknowledged the favorable changes. Whatever's going on with you? He asked once. Keep doing it. You're looking good. Working better than ever. Claire had been an unexpected ally, not romantically, but as someone who could see through Lana's lies. She was at the coffee shop yesterday. Claire texted me while on the way to Cincinnati with this guy acting all coupley. She then had the audacity to throw me a filthy look when she noticed me. Lana was leading a double life. When it was convenient, she was a devoted wife, but when it wasn't, she was a single party girl. I also placed security cameras in the shared sections of the house, which was perfectly legal because it was my premarital property. I did not inform Lana about them. They caught her bringing guys over while I was on the road, which she had clearly stated she wouldn't do. When she first established the rules, she said that our bed was our space. That rule seemed to solely apply to me. The cameras also captured her digging through my desk drawers, inspecting my mail, and looking for heaven knows what. Financial paperwork was most likely evidence of my own transgressions, which she could use against me. I also overheard her and Sabrina disparaging me in my own living room, plotting how to deal with me and discussing what they would do with the house when the time came, as if it were ever hers. I just need to keep him pacified until I figure out my next move, Lana told me. Blake's fun, but he's not exactly husband material, and I need to be smart about this house. It's worth a fortune now with the market the way it is. They went on to discuss how she can claim half ownership of the house despite it being my premarital asset. Sabrina suggested, saying she'd made major contributions to its upkeep and improvement, which was absurd given she'd never even changed a light bulb. I sent the recording to my attorney. He was gleeful. "This is gold," he explained. "Clear evidence of intent to defraud. Keep recording." I'd done it. Every conversation, conflict and lie is documented, saved and submitted to my lawyer. Meanwhile, my departure strategy was coming together. I'd reserved a storage container for my most valuable possessions, including family heirlooms, documents, and the tiny gun collection my grandfather had bequeathed me. Anything that couldn't be replaced, or that I didn't want to lose during the inevitable chaos of separation. I transferred approximately 60% of our joint savings to my own account. Not enough to be deemed concealing assets, but enough to guarantee I wasn't left high and dry if she attempted to empty out the accounts. I was waiting for my chance with Lana, and it was coming soon. 6 months into our open marriage, things had reached a breaking point. Lana was becoming sloppy, going out all night, barely bothering to lie about her location, and spending money like water. I had wisely transferred the majority of our shared funds to my personal account, leaving just enough for bills and necessities, as well as a large cushion she could use for her breakfasts and hotel stays. Just enough to avert suspicion. She hadn't checked her balance in months. She was too preoccupied with discovering herself to check at bank statements or inquire about where the money came from because she wasn't working. Then one night, everything changed. I returned home after a 3-day haul to find Lana and CrossFit Blake drinking in our living room, looking really relaxed. "Ethan," she said, faking brightness. "You remember Blake?" Blake asked, trying to keep his cool. "Hey man, it's good to finally meet you properly." He was exactly what I expected. Mid-30s. Pricey haircut. The type of muscles that result from focusing on mirror muscles while missing leg day. Wearing one of those $80 tech fabric shirts that are really just polyester. It was horrible to see Blake there with his feet up on my couch. Watching him pour my birthday log into a solo cup. That was the last straw. I set down my duffel bag. Lana waved dismissively. "You're drinking my Lavalin." "Don't be petty. I bought that bottle." She hadn't. It was a birthday present from my brother, which she had seen me open last month. But it was not the goal. "You brought him to our house," I replied plainly. "That was one of your rules. No bringing people into our house." "I think we're past that now," she answered with an eye roll. "It's been 6 months. The rules have evolved, just like Claire." Blake looked between us, sensing the tension. "Maybe I should go." "No, stay," Lana begged, placing her hand on his arm. "Ethan's just being dramatic. This is my house too." Something in me snapped at that exact moment. I was finished. "Actually," I said quietly, "it's not." "Excuse me?" Lana's eyes furrowed. "This house isn't yours. It never was. I bought it before we were married. You've contributed nothing to the mortgage, taxes, or upkeep. Legally, you're a tenant at best." Her expression was tense. "How dare you? We're married. What's yours is mine." "That's not how premarital assets work in this state," I told you. "But I'm sure Sabrina told you that when you were discussing how to take my house when the time comes." Lana's face turned white. Blake seemed to want to disappear through the floor. "What are you talking about?" she stuttered. "I heard you. You and Sabrina are planning your next move. Discussing how to claim my house. Calling me a sucker." "You were spying on me?" she whimpers. Not spying. Protecting my assets from someone who's explicitly stated her intention to take them. Blake stood up. I'm leaving. This is not what you said it was, Lana. She ignored him and focused totally on me. You've been planning this all along. Agreeing to open marriage just to trap me. Trap you into what? Sleeping with other men? Having your sister over to plot against me? Bringing your buddy to my house to drink my whiskey? Yeah. What an elaborate trap. Blake had already started walking towards the entrance. He's a smart guy. Don't you dare leave, Lana exclaimed after him. This isn't about you, he said before disappearing. At the very least he was able to recognize a show when he saw it. Lana stepped on me. You've ruined everything. This was working fine until you got all possessive and weird. Working fine for who exactly? You get to screw around while I work 60 hours a week to pay for everything. You get to bring men to my house while I can't even talk to a neighbor without being accused of cheating. That's your definition of working fine. I never cheated. We had an agreement. An agreement you unilaterally changed whenever it suited you. She attempted a different angle, tears welling up. I just needed to find myself, Ethan. I was lost. This was never about not loving you. Save it, I told him. I've watched you find yourself for 6 months. Turns out what you found was that you like screwing other guys while having a stable provider at home. Well, that arrangement is over. What does that mean? She inquired, feeling tired. It means I'm done. I've been done for months. I've just been waiting for the right time. The right time for what? Her tone had become raspy. To end this farce of a marriage. She looked at me, her expression hardening. Fine, if that's what you want, but don't think I'm walking away with nothing. I know my rights. Half this house is mine, half your pension, half of everything. I smiled. We'll see about that. That night I stayed at a motel. By dawn, I was on the phone with my attorney. It's time, I informed him. She brought one of her guys to my house drinking my stuff. He'd been prepared. Papers were prepared, and everything was structured to maximize my position while minimizing her accusations. I went back to the house to get another change of clothes before hitting the road again. Lana was waiting as if she'd been standing there all night, with red eyes, an untidy bun, and Sabrina lurking close like a personal attack dog. They were suddenly all about civility. Lana wanted to discuss future actions. Apparently she and Sabrina had already begun looking into divorce counsel. The plan was to do it amicably, in their words, not mine. Sabrina had the audacity to say that Lana deserved at least 60 or 70% of everything because I was plainly breaking the marital contract. Pure hallucination with no legal basis. However, they both nodded as if it were established law. Lana acted as if she deserved a share of everything. She claimed she contributed by being present and emotionally supportive. The entire script. Sabrina insisted that Lana had been the backbone of the household. I did not even argue. There's no point. The reality was simple. She did not clean, labor, or maintain anything. Every time I returned home from the hall, it looked like a crime scene. I took care of everything, including the cleaning, billing, and yard work. Name one thing you did in the last 6 months, I asked gently, zipping up my duffel. Silence. She couldn't recall a single useful act she'd done in the previous 6 months. Her defense consisted of emotional work, and nebulous crap about presence and vibes. Here's what will happen, I said. I'm going to my planned haul. When I return in 3 days, I expect you to be making plans to move out. What? Lana said. I'm not going anywhere. This is also my house. It is not, and I believe the courts will agree with me. Sabrina replied smugly. We'll see about that. My friend Lauren is a divorce lawyer. Wives receive half regardless of whose name appears on the deed. Your acquaintance Lauren sounds like a bad lawyer, I said. But hey, hire her. Should make things easy for me. I left them both standing there, sure that they had all the cards. The misconception was nearly sad. 3 days on the road allowed me time to plan for what was to come. My lawyer filed the divorce papers, which detailed Lana's abandonment of marital duties, financial irresponsibility, and plain statements of intent to rob me of my premarital assets. He also moved for an emergency hearing over the house's occupancy, citing security footage of Lana bringing another guy home as proof that her continued presence would be harmful to the petitioner's health and property. When I returned from my hallway, Lana and Sabrina were waiting with their own document, a scribbled list of requests. Ethan admits 50% ownership of the house, pays $3,000 per month in spousal support for 5 years, transfers 50% of his 401k to Lana, covers all of Lana's legal bills, and provides Lana with health insurance for 3 years after the divorce. This is our starting position, Sabrina remarked, as if she were a hotshot negotiator. We're willing to be reasonable if you are. I studied the list and returned it. Yeah, nope. Lana responded. What do you mean, no? That's not how this works, Sabrina hissed, her face flushing. You think you can just throw Lana away after she gave you the best years of her life? You're pathetic. Actually, this is how things work. I took out my own envelope and gave it to Lana. She opened it, her hand shaking slightly as she read, and her expression changed from surprise to horror to rage. What is this BS? She demanded. These are lies. They're all documented. You've been served, I replied quietly. Her voice rose an octave. You've been recording me. This is perfectly legal and very informative, especially your conversations with Sabrina about taking over my house when the time comes. Sabrina snatched the papers and frantically scanned them. This won't hold up. The house is marital property regardless of when you bought it. Not in this state, not with a documented history of financial separation and her contribution of exactly zero to its mortgage or upkeep. Lana was close in tears as she said, You can't kick me out of my own home. Now it never was yours, and yes, I can and will. I'll fight this, she was about to say. I'll tell everyone what you did and how you tricked me. Go ahead, she said, crying. She had polished those manipulative sobs over the years. They used to make me back down, apologize, and give in. Not anymore. You have until tomorrow afternoon to pack your essentials, I told you. The court will most likely grant you a few weeks to remove the rest of your belongings. Supervised. This isn't over, Sabrina growled, wrapping her arm around Lana. You're right, I agreed, but it's closer than you think. The judge found in my favor, as expected. The evidence was overwhelming. Lana was granted 30 days to remove her stuff, but she could not dwell in the house while the divorce was pending. She moved in with Sabrina, who soon became tired of having her sister as a regular house guest. It turns out that living with someone who contributes nothing isn't as enjoyable when you're the one paying the bills. Within 2 weeks, they were frequently fighting. My lawyer had connected me with a financial expert who assisted me in protecting my assets during the divorce. We chronicled every penny I earned, every investment I made, and every payment I paid during our marriage, building a solid case that Lana had no claim to any of it. After Lauren evaluated the facts and declined to take the case, Lana's counsel, a court-appointed attorney rather than Sabrina's friend Lauren, encouraged her to accept the settlement offer my lawyer had prepared. The house is still mine as a premarital asset. I maintain my 401k and pension intact. I do not pay any spousal support. She keeps the car that was in her name. She receives a one-time payment of $10,000, which is significantly less than she desired, but more than she deserved. She originally resisted, believing she could obtain half of everything. However, as the evidence accumulated and her position weakened, she eventually capitulated. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. When she arrived to gather the remainder of her belongings, she tried one last Hail Mary. Her makeup was smudged. She looked like she hadn't slept in a week and her hair was tangled. I'm having a breakdown, bun. Sabrina had reportedly thrown her out. They had apparently been fighting non-stop. CrossFit Blake ignored her. I still love you, Ethan, she continued, standing in the foyer of what was now officially my house. We could start over. I've learned my lesson. No, Lana. That's not fair. I made a mistake. Goodbye, Lana, I murmured, closing the door as she walked away. That was 6 months ago. The divorce is now final. I saved everything that Blake earned. My house, truck, and dignity. I saw Claire at the hardware store last week. After that we had coffee. Nothing major, just a discussion. She inquired if I was ready to date again. I informed her that I intend to remain unmarried for the time being. Life goes on better than that.